Among the faces we see every day, the people going through life in some of our most challenging times,
It is a sacrifice.
is a group of our most brave, with members who have become some of our nation's most vulnerable. Veterans.
When I got out, it was the scariest thing I could imagine.
Went to the river to cry.
This week, their stories of triumph in the face of adversity
They deserve every success that they possibly could. They've sacrificed so much.
and what can be done in a pandemic.
We knew we didn't want to leave any comrade behind.
This is The Race.
So I went to the river to cry. Yes, I did.
Welcome to The Race. I'm Chris Stewart. On any given night, tens of thousands of veterans go to bed homeless. People who serve this country now searching for a place to sleep. And we've come to Kansas City this week because we're going to introduce you to a group that is helping solve that problem, because the struggles that many veterans face are ones that they know all too well themselves. If it's hard to understand how a service member
When I got out, my transition back into civilian life didn't work out very well.
could end up here,
Became homeless for about 5 or 6 years and kept getting in a lot of trouble.
listen to Chris Perry's story.
Fell to addiction, had a lot of bumps in the road.
He's an Iraq War veteran who enlisted in the Marine Corps as soon as he could.
I joined when I was 17. My mom had to sign a paper to let me go in early.
After 8 years of service, he found himself lost in the country he swore to protect.
I honestly didn't see any light at the end of my tunnel.
Finding that light can take a village. For Chris, it's not a figure of speech. The tiny homes of Kansas City's Veterans Community Project are a unique approach to the all too common problem of veteran homelessness.
I was in the Marine Corps from 2001 to 2006, deployed to Iraq in 2003 and 2005.
Brian Meyer and Brandon Mixon are veterans who helped create this village 4 years ago, with an understanding of what those who never served may not.
The most successful I've ever been has been in the military, right? And when I came back home, I couldn't adjust and I couldn't transition out of the military mentality back to the civilian life mentality.
The veterans who live here get to keep everything inside their tiny home. Staff helps connect them with services so they can move forward. While some nonprofits may consider factors like whether a veteran looking for help was honorably discharged from the military, here, the promise at the core of service is what matters most.
By veteran, I mean you raised your right hand and you took the oath to serve your country. That can be, you could have served for 1 day or 100 years, you're a veteran in our book.
The tiny homes model is expanding nationwide. Veterans Community Project broke ground on a new village outside Denver this year because for each veteran like Chris Perry, now on the right path, enrolled in community college,
They got me to a point where there is no going back, so it's just straightforward from here.
there are those who took the oath to protect this country, now living on its streets, in need of help.
I know there's a veteran that's sleeping on the street. There's a veteran crying right now and wanting to commit suicide because nobody has his back. And I'm not gonna lie, we're not gonna be done until we find that veteran and we save his life and have his back because he'd do it for me. I owe it to do it for him.
It's a real situation for veterans. They survived war only to come home to face a battle with COVID-19. One veteran told Lindsay Boach about the experience from isolation.
For Army veteran Leonardo DeAngelis, COVID-19 has been hard in more ways than one. I spoke with him and his daughter Lacey outside of the veterans home he's staying in Spokane, Washington. She shared these pictures with me. He came down with COVID-19 in April and was immediately taken to the VA hospital where he was treated and tested every week.
If he tested positive, he had to stay there another week. So he was in there for a month.
7 months later, he's still dealing with complications.
He's got permanent lung scarring in his lungs. He still can't do stairs. He's still doing physical therapy.
He also had a bout of pneumonia, but not only that, Leonardo suffers from PTSD, which he and his daughter say has been exacerbated by COVID.
I see shadows and and that's pretty, I see them in the daytime and at night, and they give me a pill to take so I can go to sleep.
They said that because he was in isolation and they were so bored, like he was seeing shadows, and he would like be yelling and screaming and running in his sleep at night.
And he's not alone. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs says about 30% of Vietnam veterans have had PTSD in their lifetime.
We can't get rid of it.
DeAngelis is one of more than 83,000 vets in VA homes across the country who have contracted COVID. More than 4,200 have died.
We just lost another one the other day.
They're seeing each other die again. They're such a vulnerable population, and they come in here and, they make connections with other veterans, and then they catch COVID and they die, and it's hard for them.
Reliving the tragedy and trauma brought on by a war he served in more than 50 years ago, all over again. Reporting for The Race, I'm Lindsay Boach.
The VA estimates 10% of our nation's veterans are female. Amanda Brandeis takes a look at the unique challenges they face.
Well, I love you. I miss you.
Erin Smalley enlisted in the Navy when she was 24.
It was great. It was an adventure.
But military life became more complicated when she had a baby as a single mom.
Definitely difficult. I was told my daughter didn't come with me along with me with my sea bag, so finding childcare, finding someone to watch her while I was doing sea school or going out on debts or anything like that was definitely difficult.
Stationed with only 3 other women, Smalley felt alone as she navigated work and motherhood.
Having, nobody to confide in, nobody to feel what I felt was definitely a challenge.
And while Smalley joined the Navy 20 years ago, it's only been 3 months since she started working through the trauma that ultimately ended her military career.
I had some sexual trauma in the military. I was raped in the military. And actually, after that, I had a substance abuse problem and failed a urinalysis and was discharged.
She tried bearing the trauma while serving, and for many years after.
And the only way I knew how to cope was to numb myself. And that's where the substance abuse came in.
Women have certainly had several battles that they've fought over the years.
Akila Templeton is president and CEO of Veterans Village of San Diego, a nonprofit serving thousands of veterans. She says most services are geared towards men.
When we think about trauma and PTSD and even combat, we think about men. And so we have to do a better job at offering services to women veterans in spaces where they feel comfortable and in spaces where they feel safe.
When Smalley left the Navy, she didn't know there were resources available.
We get out into the real world and it's a culture shock.
Depression, mental health issues, but then you add to that the stressors that come with being a mom. You're building a young person's self-esteem and trying to maintain your own. That's rough.
The VA says female veterans are twice as likely to experience homelessness than civilian women. And 1 in 3 female veterans report military sexual trauma.
I didn't want to tell anybody. I was ashamed. I felt like I was not only letting myself down, but letting the country down by being discharged the way I was.
After years of substance abuse, Smalley went to federal prison for smuggling people into the country. Then she found Veterans Village.
We have meditation every morning. Yeah, which is great.
She's getting counseling and help for addiction.
I'm 58 days clean, sober. I'm on track to getting, my daughter back. She's with my mom right now.
After 20 years, Smalley is no longer facing her trauma alone, rebuilding her life one day at a time. For The Race, I'm Amanda Brandeis reporting.
The Race continues next.